Artest has jumped over the scorer's table and is trying to get down to the bench. Artest is in the stands.
From the malice at the palace, where players climbed into the stands to fight fans, to Paul George, whose leg snapped clean in half on a routine block, to Draymond Green, caught on tape punching his own teammate in practice, these are NBA moments that were never supposed to be filmed, starting with malice at the palace. It was supposed to be a measuring stick game, the defending champion Detroit Pistons hosting an Indiana Pacers squad that walked into the Palace of Auburn Hills on November 19, 2004, carrying themselves like the next team to wear a ring. Stephen Jackson would later describe the energy in the room with no ambiguity at all.
The whole league knew we were the best team in the league that year. We had the best record, and this game was our test.
The Pacers were dismantling Detroit. With 45 seconds left and Indiana up by 15, the game itself was already finished. What happened next was something else entirely. Pistons center Ben Wallace drove for a layup and was clipped from behind by Ron Artest, a foul that, on any other night, dies as a footnote in a blowout box score. But Wallace, who according to Jackson was carrying the weight of his mother's recent passing, came unraveled. He turned and shoved Artest in the chest with both hands, the kind of shove that travels up from the legs and means business. Artest, oddly subdued, walked away from the confrontation and lay flat on his back across the scorer's table near midcourt, headphones off, eyes on the rafters, somewhere between meditation and surrender. The benches emptied. Coaches grabbed jerseys. The whole thing looked like it might dissolve the way these things usually do, into fines and a stern memo from the league office. And then a cup came flying out of the stands. A Pistons fan named John Green hurled a beverage that struck Artest squarely in the chest and face. What had been a slow simmer detonated. Artest sprang from the table, vaulted the barrier, and went hunting in the crowd. Stephen Jackson followed him in. Jermaine O'Neal sprinted toward a fan who had wandered onto the court and threw a hook that landed on national television. Within seconds, the line between athlete and spectator had collapsed entirely. The broadcast call captured it in real time as the chaos spread.
Now Artest has jumped over the scorer's table and is trying to get down to the bench. Artest is in the stands.
Fans threw chairs, players threw fists, cups, bottles, popcorn, and pretzels rained from the upper bowl. With 32 seconds remaining on the game clock that would never tick again, officials declared the contest over and shepherded the Pacers down the tunnel under a hailstorm of debris. But the brawl that night was only the loudest moment in a season of unraveling. The next domino was already being set up 2,000 miles away, and it would fall 10 years later in the form of a bone breaking through skin. Paul George's gruesome open leg fracture. A scrimmage. That was what made it worse. There was no rivalry, no playoff stakes, no crowd that hated him. Just a Team USA showcase at the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas on August 1st, 2014. The kind of friendly summertime event where you fly your family in and post pictures of your kid on the bench. Paul George was rising into the orbit reserved for franchise players, fresh off 2 strong seasons in Indiana and stepping into the Team USA pool ahead of the 2014 FIBA World Cup. Late in the fourth, with about 9.5 minutes on the clock, James Harden took off in transition. George rotated over to contest the layup and went up the way he had gone up 10,000 times before. The way he came down was new. His right foot landed on the base of the basket stanchion, the padded support that holds the rim in place.
Working out on your own, or whether you are playing pickup basketball.
Bone met steel. The leg buckled at an angle bones are not designed to make. Both the tibia and fibula snapped, and the skin gave way with them. The arena went quiet in a way arenas do not usually go quiet. The broadcast team did not know what to say, and to their credit, they stopped trying. Fran Fraschilla simply suggested the obvious. The game should not continue.
This is a scrimmage. These guys have played very hard. This is one of the byproducts of great players competing.
Mike Krzyzewski took the microphone and ended the scrimmage. George was carted off the floor and rushed to Sunrise Hospital, where surgeons inserted a titanium rod and screws into his right leg. He would not play another NBA minute for nearly 8 months. When he finally returned on April 5th, 2015, the Pacers were facing the Heat and the cameras were waiting. Years later, George would describe what that night actually felt like, sitting somewhere between disbelief and adrenaline.
I remember, I was nervous as hell. I was super nervous because I didn't feel like I was confident enough and trusted all the work that I put in going into that game. But if you watch me, I still was hobbling around.
What people did not see was the part of the recovery that no medical chart can plot. He talked about the doubt, the months in February when teammates were blowing past him in practice, and he could not figure out why his legs would not respond. The mental wall, he said, was higher than the physical one. George has spoken openly in later years about the mental challenges of returning from such a gruesome injury. The footage remains extremely graphic and is almost always accompanied by viewer discretion warnings. He still has the rod in his leg, he still has the scar, and every April 5th he marks the date. But that injury, freakish as it was, happened in front of a friendly crowd. Long before that, another moment had unfolded in front of a crowd that wanted blood, and the question of what really happened that night still has not been put to rest. 2002 Western Conference Finals Game 6, Lakers vs. Kings. Some games age into legend, others age into evidence. Game 6 of the 2002 Western Conference Finals belongs in the second category, the kind of contest that gets dissected frame by frame on YouTube 2 decades later by people still trying to figure out what they actually watched. The Sacramento Kings of that era were the most fun thing in basketball. Chris Webber at the elbow making passes that no scouting report could prepare you for. Mike Bibby pulling up from the wing without looking at the rim. Blade Divac flopping with the artistry of a Soviet ballet dancer. Peja Stojakovic standing in the corner like a sniper. They had the best record in the league, and they were one win away from sending Shaq and Kobe home. Game 6 was at Staples Center on May 31st, 2002. Sacramento led the series 3-2. The Kings needed 48 minutes of basketball to reach the finals. They got something else instead. The Lakers won 106-102, and the box score told a story that did not need translation. Los Angeles attempted 40 free throws to Sacramento's 25. In the fourth quarter alone, the Lakers shot 27 foul shots while the Kings shot 9. Shaquille O'Neal lived at the line. Kobe Bryant lived at the line. The Kings watched layups go uncalled and got whistled for offensive fouls when they tried to fight back. The accusation that the game was rigged did not appear in 2002. It appeared in 2008 when disgraced former referee Tim Donaghy, already serving time for gambling on NBA games, alleged that 2 officials in that contest were what he called company men, steering the series toward a 7th game for ratings and revenue. The league denied it. Donaghy's credibility, given his crimes, hung by a thread. But the numbers stayed where they were, and the questions never went away. Even Kobe Bryant, asked years later about the conspiracy, gave an answer that did not exactly slam the door.
2002 Western Conference Finals, was it rigged?
Well, what's the official's name?
Tim Donaghy.
Well, he definitely had money on it.
Yep.
So that's a fact.
Yes, yes.
So from that standpoint, yes.
Yes.
But from the Kings missing 20-something free throws in Game 7.
Good point. Good point.
Unless
People
you go and
forget
check their bank accounts, I don't know what else to tell you.
People forget that.
He went on to point out, fairly enough, that the Kings missed 20-something free throws in Game 7, which was true. But the qualifier did not erase the original concession. From that standpoint, yes, the Lakers won Game 7 in Sacramento and went on to sweep the Nets in the finals for their 3rd straight title. The Kings never got back to that altitude. Webber's knee gave out the next year. The window closed. For Kings fans, the series remains a painful what-if moment. A talented team denied what many believe was a legitimate shot at the title due to officiating. Full game footage, referee breakdowns, and slow-motion analyses of key calls are widely available on YouTube, making it one of the most dissected games in league history. If that game was an act of subtle manipulation, the next moment was the opposite. There was nothing subtle about what Andrew Bynum did to a man 80 pounds lighter than him. Andrew Bynum's flagrant elbow on J.J. Barea. Some fouls are arguments, some fouls are statements, and some fouls are confessions, the kind of play where a man tells you exactly who he is in the span of 3 seconds, and then walks off the court without looking back. May 8th, 2011. Game 4 of the Western Conference semifinals at the American Airlines Center in Dallas. The 2-time defending champion Lakers were getting embarrassed, trailing by margins that made the cameras start finding faces in the crowd just to fill time. The final score would read 122-86. The Mavericks were sweeping the dynasty into a coffin, and Phil Jackson, in what would be his last game as head coach, sat on the bench with the look of a man who already knew. With under 2 minutes on the clock and the result long since settled, J.J. Barea, all 5'10" of him, took the ball into the lane on a fast break. Andrew Bynum rotated over from the weak side. Barea went up. Bynum did not jump to contest. He swung, a full forearm and elbow strike to the chest of a player still in the air, delivered with intent, with weight, with the kind of body language that said this was not a basketball play. The broadcast picked it up in real time.
Barea, oh, look at that. Oh, God. That is Bynum. He will be ejected, and that's one of the biggest Bush League things I've ever seen. That is terrible. And Barea is injured.
Barea hit the floor like he had been clipped by a car. He writhed. The whistles came late and angry. The Mavericks bench started moving toward the floor, and the medical staff had to redirect their own players away from Bynum just to prevent the next escalation.
And the Mavericks bench is being very cautious as the medical staff looks. The medical staff's not looking at him. They're keeping everybody on the Mavs bench away from Bynum so they don't get anybody coming off the bench in an incident for the next series.
The referees called a flagrant 2 and ejected him. Bynum, in what became one of the most baffling moments of the entire sequence, took off his jersey on the way to the tunnel, exposing his chest to the Dallas crowd as if to invite them deeper into the conversation. Bynum was suspended for the next 5 games, including any remaining in the series. The series ended that night. The dynasty ended with it. What made the moment stick was not the foul itself, but the math behind it. Barea was generously listed at 185 pounds. Bynum was over 7 feet and weighed somewhere north of 280. Barea later revealed in interviews that Bynum actually called him afterward to apologize, saying the hit was not personal and that he was just frustrated with how the series was going. Frustration, though, has a long history of producing moments the league cannot unsee. And 5 years before Bynum's elbow, an entire arena in Manhattan watched frustration metastasize into something much worse. Knicks versus Nuggets brawl. If the malice at the Palace was the league's worst nightmare, what unfolded at Madison Square Garden on December 16, 2006 was the nightmare's understudy waking up and demanding a part. 2 years almost to the day after Auburn Hills, with all the new security protocols and warnings and league memos in place, the Knicks and Nuggets reminded everybody that no policy can legislate ego. The game was over. Denver was up 119-100 with 75 seconds left, and George Karl had not pulled his starters. Carmelo Anthony was still in. J.R. Smith was still in. Knicks coach Isaiah Thomas felt his home crowd being disrespected and inserted Marty Collins, a rookie guard with a reputation for physicality, with explicit instructions, witnesses later suggested, to send a message. Collins delivered. He clotheslined J.R. Smith on a fast break, a flagrant 2 so blatant the referees did not need a replay to call it. Smith got up swinging. Nate Robinson came charging in and tackled Smith into the courtside seats. The whole thing should have ended there, with ejections and a fine and a couple of forgettable stories. Then Carmelo Anthony, who had been hovering at the edge of the scrum, stepped forward.
Watch Anthony swing a roundhouse right in Jeffrey's face.
Smith and Robinson escalating it. There you see Anthony getting in the face of Collins. Anthony continues now. Watch.
The broadcast briefly misidentified the target. The punch landed on Marty Collins, square on the jaw, with the unmistakable sound of fist meeting bone. Collins went down. The arena gasped. Then Anthony, in the move that would define the clip forever, backpedaled all the way across the half court as if the punch itself had startled him.
Anthony's punch was so loud you could hear it down here, folks. And he is going to miss a lot of games because of that punch.
There's going to be some heavy suspensions handed out for this, all in a needless situation. A 19-point game with 1:15 remaining.
The fallout came hard and fast. The NBA handed down severe punishments afterward. 7 players were suspended for a total of 47 games. Carmelo Anthony received the harshest penalty with a 15-game suspension, costing him over $640,000 in salary. J.R. Smith and Nate Robinson each got 10 games. Marty Collins received 6 games, Jared Jeffries 4 games, and Nene and Jerome James each received 1 game. Each team was fined $500,000, an unprecedented amount at the time. For Anthony, the punch became a chapter he could not edit out. He was 22 years old, ascending, marketed as the soft-spoken counterweight to the league's louder personalities, and in one swing he became a cautionary tale that ESPN ran on loop for a week. The Knicks-Nuggets brawl was about ego and timing. The next moment was about something rawer. Sometimes the most violent thing a game can produce is not a fist. Sometimes it is just a leg landing wrong. Gordon Hayward's dislocated ankle and tibia fracture. October 17, 2017, Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland. Opening night of a season that had been hyped for an entire summer. Gordon Hayward, fresh off signing a 4-year, $128 million deal with Boston, was making his Celtics debut against LeBron James and the Cavaliers, the team that had just dismantled Boston in the previous postseason. 5 minutes and 15 seconds into the first quarter, Hayward cut to the basket. Kyrie Irving lobbed an alley-oop that hung in the air a beat too long. Hayward went up. LeBron and Jay Crowder were both rotating to contest. Hayward met them at the apex. The ball got knocked away, and his body started coming down at an angle his foot was not prepared to handle. His left foot hit the floor heel first. The leg twisted underneath him as the rest of his body kept moving forward. The ankle dislocated. The tibia fractured. The foot ended up pointing somewhere it had never pointed before, jutting out from the leg at the kind of angle that stops a broadcast cold. Players covered their mouths. LeBron James, walking back into the play, saw it and immediately turned away. Hayward sat up, looked down at his own leg, put his hands to his face, and lay back down. The arena fell into a silence so complete that you could hear the medical staff giving instructions from 20 rows up. He was carted off. The Celtics lost the game 102-99, and nobody on either roster cared about the score. He was flown back to Boston that night and had surgery the next morning. He would not return to a basketball game for over 11 months. Years later, Hayward sat down with Paul George, two men with nearly identical scars on their lower legs, and walked through the part of the recovery the press conferences never quite reached.
It gets lonely. It was even harder the next year when I'm coming back because you're not all the way physically where you were.
He talked about the doubt that creeps in when your body refuses to do what your mind remembers it doing, the way confidence becomes a thing you have to manufacture from scratch.
You start doubting yourself. You don't have the same confidence you did. You're not playing at the same level because you're not moving and physically feeling the same. Once I think doubt creeps in at all at this level, it's really hard for you.
The visual of the injury, frequently compared to Paul George's 2014 compound fracture, became one of the most replayed and discussed sports injury clips of the decade, often with graphic warnings. Hayward has since spoken openly about the physical pain and significant mental challenges of his long recovery process. This moment is remembered not only for its brutality, but for occurring at such a hopeful time in Hayward's career transition. Some moments leave the body broken. Others leave the body bruised in places nobody can see. This next moment belongs to a man who built a career on operating at the precise edge where competition crosses into something dirtier, and the cameras kept catching him doing it. Draymond Green kicks Steven Adams in the groin. May 22, 2016, Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals at Chesapeake Energy Arena. The Golden State Warriors, the 73-win team, the supposed inevitability, were getting outworked by the Oklahoma City Thunder. Steven Adams, the New Zealand-born center with the Old Testament beard, was eating Draymond Green's lunch on the glass and on the block, and Green was looking for any way to disrupt him. He found one. With about 6 minutes left in the second quarter, Adams set up in the paint, and Green, going up for what announcers generously called a shooting motion, swung his right leg up in an exaggerated kicking arc that connected directly with Adams' groin. Adams crumpled. The crowd reacted. The broadcast, in real time, tried to find diplomatic language for what they had just watched.
It's the leg, guys. Watch the leg. Oh my God. The follow through on the foot gets you in trouble every time.
The line that mattered came next. The announcer pointed out the obvious.
And that's the second time that Green, and let's say inadvertently,
The second time, because in Game 2, Green had already kneed Adams in the same area. The Thunder camp was openly accusing Green of intent. Russell Westbrook said he believed the kicks were on purpose. Steven Adams himself, asked about the recurrence, gave one of the great deadpan responses in playoff press history. Adams himself commented dryly, "It happened before, mate. He's pretty accurate." The referees initially assessed a flagrant one. The league reviewed the tape and upgraded it to a flagrant 2, which under playoff rules meant accumulated points toward an automatic suspension. The upgrade meant that any additional flagrant foul in the playoffs would result in an automatic suspension. Green denied intent then and has denied it since, but that was Green operating against an opponent. The far more uncomfortable footage was the kind that captured him operating against his own teammate behind closed doors in a setting that was never supposed to leave the building. Draymond Green punches Jordan Poole. October 5th, 2022, the Warriors practice facility in San Francisco. 3 days before the start of the season, the franchise was supposed to use to defend its newest championship. There were no fans, no referees, just teammates running through drills, and a camera in the corner of the gym that nobody was thinking about. The argument started with words. Draymond Green and Jordan Poole exchanging something neither of them has ever publicly recapped in detail. The accounts that leaked described Poole as having developed an attitude after his breakout postseason, a sense of entitlement that veterans on the team felt the need to address. Green, the self-appointed enforcer of locker room standards, walked toward Poole with his chest out. Poole pushed him. Green wound up and threw a right hand that connected flush with Poole's face and dropped him to the floor. The video leaked. That was the part the organization could not contain. Within 48 hours, footage of a teammate punching a teammate at full force was circulating on every platform that hosts video. Green sat down at a press conference and tried to walk through what could not be walked back.
I was wrong for my actions that took place on Wednesday, and for that, I have apologized to my team.
He kept going, addressing the leak itself, the embarrassment that came with the entire roster having to answer for him.
With the event yesterday, with the video leaking, there is a huge embarrassment that comes with that. Not only for myself as I was the one that committed the action, the embarrassment that comes for me is what it is, and that's something that I have to deal with. But the embarrassment that Jordan has to deal with, and that this team has to deal with, that this organization has to deal with, but also Jordan's family. His family saw that video.
He talked about Poole's family seeing the video. He talked about his own mother, what her reaction would have been if the roles were reversed. The Warriors organization conducted an internal review. Green was suspended for several games, ultimately missing the first 3 regular season games, and the team attempted to handle the matter privately while addressing team chemistry. That punch was thrown out of the public eye and only became a moment because the footage escaped. This next moment was the opposite, a confrontation that played out in the open, in front of cameras, with one of the most recognizable faces in basketball history walking directly into the line of fire. LeBron James' courtside confrontation with Stephen A. Smith. March 6, 2025, Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles. Lakers versus Knicks, a game the home team would eventually win 113-109, though by the next morning, nobody was talking about the score. They were talking about what happened during a stoppage in play when LeBron James walked off the floor, bypassed his bench, and made a direct line for the courtside seat where Stephen A. Smith was sitting. The exchange was not subtle. LeBron, still in uniform, leaned in toward Smith and unloaded a string of language that the broadcast cameras caught from multiple angles. The subject was Bronny James, LeBron's eldest son, a rookie on the Lakers that year, and the constant on-air analysis Smith had been delivering about Bronny's playing time, his development, and whether he belonged in the NBA at all. Smith, to his credit, listened. He responded. Neither man raised his hands. The footage spread within minutes. The day after, Smith addressed it on his own show, and his framing of the moment was the part that lingered.
That was LeBron James coming up to me, unexpectedly, I might add, to confront me about.
He went further, separating the player from the parent in a way that was both generous and pointed.
That wasn't a basketball player confronting me. That was a parent. That was a father. And I can't sit here and be angry or feel slighted by LeBron James in any way in that regard. Now let me tell you what I feel.
Smith made clear he had nothing against Bronny personally, that his commentary had been about the position LeBron had placed his son in, the immense pressure of being drafted to the same team as one of the 2 greatest players in the history of basketball.
Was that because of who you are, one of the top 2 players in the history of basketball in my estimation, there's an immense amount of pressure that comes with that for his son.
LeBron eventually addressed the confrontation in a long-form sit-down with Pat McAfee, defending himself as a father first and a player second. The debate split predictably. Some saw a man protecting his child. Others saw an athlete using his platform to intimidate a critic. The footage stayed in circulation, replayed for weeks, debated on every show that books guests to debate things. The next moment rewinds the clock by 25 years to a player who almost never lost his composure, and a night where he very briefly did. Kobe Bryant versus Chris Childs fight. April 2nd, 2000, Madison Square Garden, a nationally televised regular season game between the Los Angeles Lakers and the New York Knicks. Kobe Bryant was 21 years old in his 4th NBA season, beginning to ascend toward the version of himself the world would eventually mythologize. Chris Childs was a 32-year-old veteran point guard who had built a career on being the kind of player nobody wanted to guard for 48 minutes because he made every possession into an argument. The friction started innocuously. Kobe came around a screen and his elbow caught Childs somewhere in the chin or upper face. Play continued. The next time they crossed paths, Childs warned him about the elbows. The third time, Childs decided he had warned enough. The broadcast caught the entire sequence in real time.
And now a fight breaks out between Kobe Bryant and Chris Childs.
Chris Childs punched him twice.
And Kobe is hot. It takes 2 officials to restrain him. Now Ewing is jawing with Shaq. Assistant coach Don Chaney off the Knicks bench to try and separate them.
What stood out about the footage was Kobe's reaction. The man who would become famous for his almost surgical composure, the player who described his on-court mindset as cold, was visibly furious. It took two officials to hold him back. Shaquille O'Neal stepped in and squared up with Patrick Ewing, and for a moment, the entire Garden seemed to be one shove away from a multi-team incident. The replay told the story in pieces.
Little shove there, Childs shoves him, they talk. Now watch Childs, he's gonna hit him with the head, the little bump there, and boom, boom, two quick punches, and then Kobe throws a couple, so there'll be suspensions here.
In fairness, after the headbutt by Childs, Kobe threw a forearm up in the area of the neck, and then the two punches by Childs.
Absolutely.
A headbutt, two punches from Childs, a return forearm and counter swings from Kobe. As a result, Childs was suspended for 2 games without pay and fined $15,000. Kobe Bryant received a 1-game suspension without pay, costing him approximately $100,000 based on his salary at the time, and a $5,000 fine. Childs explained his side later. He was tired of the elbows. He felt disrespected. He took matters into his own hands because, in his view, nobody else was going to. For Kobe, the night became one of the rare clips in his career where the ice cracked, where the public got to see him as something other than the controlled, calculating assassin he was already learning to project. Thanks for watching. If you had a good time, keep the adventure alive by clicking on one of the suggested videos on your screen right now for more amazing content.